faculty to the 2013 Miss Hall's Convocation. Convocation is an annual event held during the Fall Family Weekend. It is one of the first assemblies in the community designed to celebrate the start of a new school year. This program features speeches given by one member of each class who will speak on behalf of their class. The students chosen have gone through a selection process in order to be speaking to you today. It is an honor to be selected to speak at this event before the school community and family members. Student Council selected the following topic presented by Student Council member Megan Frazier and written by the following members: Anna Durning, Judy Hahn, Lisa Kravchenko, and Maggie Meisberger. The convocation topic this year is titled, A Letter to My Past Self. Write a letter to your past self. Life is a learning experience, and sometimes we find that a lesson learned from a recent experience would have been helpful to know at an earlier time. Is there something that you know now that you wish you'd learned before? What knowledge would you give to an earlier version of yourself to help you get where you are today? Tell yourself about all the things that you could have helped back then. Be creative. Think outside the box. The student speakers behind me have all been chosen due to the beautiful messages that they each wish to share. I hope that you will be mindful, for their tips of advice will surely resonate with you also, whether it is with your past, present, or future self. I now have the pleasure of introducing to you our head of school, Dr. Grant.
Before I share a few thoughts about our theme for the year, I would like to recognize faculty and staff who were honored last spring for many dedicated years of service. Please stand when I call your name, and please we will hold your applause until all names have been called. Freddie Hungate, Math and ASC teacher. Norvaline Pantakas, Horizons instructor and Director of New Student Orientation. Linda Call, Registrar. And Teresa Gentile, School Counselor. Let's thank them all, whether they're here or just with us in school. The yellow rose of Texas, she's the only girl for me. Her eyes are bright as diamonds, they sparkle like the sea. You can talk about your Clementine or sing of Rosalie, but the yellow rose of Texas is the only girl for me. Why, you may be asking yourself, as the head of school, reciting the lyrics to an old Civil War folk song here at Convocation when we're supposed to set the tone for the year. And why, when we're gathered here to listen to 4 really good speeches, I've listened to them so carefully prepared and wonderful, do we have to listen to that? Well, it's all part of my letter to my past self, reflecting on one of my youthful indiscretions. I'll give you that story later, but first I would actually like to thank Student Council for our theme. At first I thought, well, maybe it'll be too romantic or sentimental. But then I realized it would carry quite a powerful punch if you stop to reflect and think back to your old self and what you've learned. And I learned something that surprised me. So here my letter starts. Dear Mary, remember the little green diary you kept in 9th grade? The one with a little gold lock and key? Well, I found it a couple of months ago in a box when I was rummaging through some unopened boxes. I picked it up, and a bunch of tiny folded pieces of paper fluttered out of it, some in your 14-year-old handwriting, and some from your friends. We'll stop that letter right there while I tell you. Passing notes was like the bread of life to me in 9th grade. It's kind of like texting is now. From these notes, which I opened up and read, and it was not a pretty picture, my 9th grade thoughts consist of this. Friends. Boys, how unreasonable our parents were. More boys, dances and clothes. it would appear that I had not one single serious thought in my head. My friends and I passed these notes to each other in the hallway or at lunch, or I regret to say, in the middle of class. So instead of working on our math problems or listening to our history teacher, we were working on our little notes and passing notes in class. But oh, that history teacher. His name was Mr. Pignoni. In retrospect, I can say he was an excellent teacher. In spite of my note passing, I even thought the class was okay, and I enjoyed scoring better on our weekly Friday quizzes than the boy ahead of me. I was in direct competition, and I won. Loved that part. Nevertheless, I have to tell you that I passed a note to my friend Barbara Nelson every day, without fail. So back to the letter. Mary dear, this would certainly qualify as not paying attention. Did you think Mr. Pignoni wouldn't notice? And did you ever think how disrespectful you were being to a teacher? Or even how disrespectful you were being to yourself by not trying to find challenge in that class? Well, one day in class, I will tell you, Mr. Pignoni was playing records of Civil War folk songs. Red River Valley, Mine Eyes Have Seen the Glory, Yellow Rose of Texas, and I let myself get so bored that I started passing notes to Barbara throughout the class. The music's going on, and suddenly, it stops. Mr. Pignoni looks right at me and he said, Mary, you will see me after class. After class, Mr. Pignoni told me he saw me passing notes, and from this, he realized that I knew so much about Civil War folk music that I could sing one for the class. And I would do that the next day. I was welcome to take the old vinyl record home, play it as much as I liked, but I would be singing it a cappella without the record. Well, the song I chose, according to my indignant 9th grade diary entry, was The Yellow Rose of Texas. The letter again. Dear Mary, what a dumb choice. This writer did not even call his girlfriend by name. He could talk about a bunch of other ladies, Clementine, Rosalie, but he couldn't call her by her name. She had to be called Yellow Rose. Now, I'll bet you money her mama did not name her that. But Mary, remember what happened after you sang. Mr. Pignoni was very nice to you after class. He took you aside to explain some things about the song. And he said, imagine someone, a boy, not a lot older than you, walking to war. He's left his loved ones behind. He's a little afraid. He hopes that he will live and get back to marry his girl. But maybe he also wants to impress those guys that are walking with him and wants to make it clear he has the pick of all the beautiful girls in Texas. Mary, Mr. Pignoni took some time to teach you a little bit about empathy and a little bit about how historians think. And you might not believe this, but maybe that was the moment when you began to understand you actually liked history. Maybe you became a little more your authentic self when you started to admit that history was as interesting as passing notes. So now I'm going to put that letter aside and ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself remembering mistakes that you made and feel that sudden pinch of embarrassment? Well, the Yellow Rose is one of those memories that makes me wince when I think about it. But because I had to write this letter, I began to reflect and see it differently. And that was my surprise. So it's like this. Think about a jeweler who has a gem, and the jeweler examines it from many facets, different sides, different faces of that jewel. The jeweler can see the flaws in the gem, but that's not all. Because as she continues to turn it, she begins to see tints of color, or maybe a very beautiful irregularity, or perhaps a special sparkle that will emerge when it's cut in the right way. And we can do the same things with our lives, just like a jeweler. When you reflect on a difficult situation, turn the incident over in your mind. Don't look at just one side. See that jewel in a new light. You may see flickers of new color, new depth, a flash of light, a glimmer of something, a hint of something deep and true. And that hint, that glimmer, is your true, authentic self. Even the jewel of life, when it looks flawed at first glance, has something beautiful and hopeful underneath the surface. And so it was when I was writing that letter to my past self, that Yellow Rose incident came back with a pinch. But it also made me feel better when I realized that 9th grade me was on a path to becoming an historian. And that has been a pastime that drew me to get a PhD and that I've loved my whole life. And when you make a mistake in life, I highly recommend that you do not sing the Yellow Rose